Today, we're joined by a longtime podcast listener, Jeremy. Jeremy is calling in from Italy. Let's start at the beginning. How did you find us?
Probably I think it would have been a podcast search. I know what I want in a podcast, and so I'm pretty intentional about finding things. And so I was probably just searching for digital nomad podcasts. So you guys had some good SEO on that for sure with the name, and listened to an episode and I was hooked. Basically, this is probably like 3-4 years ago.
My old background actually played out. My old SEO work actually played out for the beach commute. We actually did do SEO for the podcast as well. Yeah, so my old life actually paid off.
What should we call it? Digital nomad.
Digital nomad? Yeah, look at that. Yeah, I was trying to rank for digital nomad and we ended up getting it. You said you've been listening for 3 or 4 years. Have you listened to most of the podcasts?
Yeah, pretty much. I think so. Yeah, it's pretty much a weekly routine.
That's awesome.
Tuesdays, download.
Yeah, so
right
glad
to the top of the
that's
playlist.
awesome to hear, because as Marissa and I will chat weekly, and as you can see right now, between you and I just having a conversation, this just very much feels like a one-on-one conversation, and you can forget that there's thousands. You just hit the publish button. You're like, oh, it just goes off into the ether. Who knows? Some people will leave a comment. Most people don't. But you forget like thousands of people are listening to this thing.
Yeah.
And it's so cool when people like you write in and say, hey, I've been listening to every episode. As a matter of fact, this one guy wrote in and said that he listened to every episode and he shared all of his notes on the episode.
Nice.
He had more notes on our podcast than Marissa and I had on our podcast. So it's very flattering. And we do.
Yeah, when you put the art out to the world, right? You never know what's gonna happen with it.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to talk a little bit about your story. It's really, really cool to talk to listeners and other people who are digital nomads trying to become digital nomads, get a little bit about their story. So you say that you're a reverse digital nomad. First time I've heard that expression used before in any context whatsoever. Tell me what that is.
So yeah, I guess I can take credit for that one to coin it.
It's all yours. Trademark it.
So yeah, reverse digital nomads. I've kind of been trying to find like how I fit into the whole digital nomad world. But basically, it seems like, a lot of people will be at home, want more out of life, maybe to travel, to leave where they're from, and they go out to seek the world, become a digital nomad, and do the whole thing. Maybe if they really like it, they'll stay abroad, become an expat. And so I basically did the opposite. So I did to kind of unpack how I became an expat. I did a study abroad program in college, come to Italy, where I've now set down roots, and do a study abroad, like for supposed to be a year, end up meeting a girl, go back to the States and come back to Italy for that reason, and then become an expat. And so I do the whole expat thing for multiple years, and the digital nomad comes in reverse because I ended up wanting to go back home more often, basically. And so the digital nomad actually is, instead of leaving home, is more about spending more time back at home with the friends and family where I'm from.
That's interesting. You actually played out the perfect stereotype of falling in love while traveling.
I did.
It was Italy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus. It's just almost perfectly written as a rom-com, like a Hallmark rom-com. Not making fun of you. It's perfect.
Yeah. At this point, when I make it into, like, when somebody asks me why I'm in Italy, it becomes like a one sentence thing. Yeah. So I met a girl, and you know how the story goes. You've heard this one before.
You know what's interesting is that we actually started this podcast in this business 5 years ago, 4 years ago with the podcast, almost 4 years ago exactly with the podcast, with the intention of getting people to become, or helping them become, digital nomads. And then we realized that's not the biggest goal for the majority of people. The biggest goal for them is just to have the freedom to be able to work where they want. And you kind of described that in that statement where you said, you became an expat, went to Italy, but then you just wanted to be able to come home to visit family while you're working at the same time. So your objective wasn't really digital nomading. It was just being able to be free to work from wherever is what I'm hearing, right?
Yes, definitely. And I think that might be, I don't know, like, I don't want to say that it's not sustainable to be a full-time nomad, but I think it might kind of mislead people into thinking that you have to always be on the move and you can't have a house and things like that. And so I've definitely done the expat thing and have set down roots in Italy and don't want to leave that. I don't want to be like constantly traveling because I do feel like that's important, at least for me. And so digital nomad for me means basically having that freedom, not necessarily using it. Like you can if you want the freedom to be where you want when you want, but not necessarily having to.
Talk a little bit more about what that means to you personally, being able to just pick up and say, I've got the capability to go here and visit family.
Yeah, it's huge.
What exactly does that do for you? Tell me.
I have the travel bug really bad. And in fact, it's funny because when I was, before coming to Italy, I didn't have it at all. I was perfectly content with my circle of friends and being at home and just hanging out, and decided to do this study abroad trip in college. And I was like, okay, let's try it out. I get over to Italy and I'm just like, what is this? There is so much out there to experience that I had no idea about, even like learning the language and just understanding another culture and all that stuff. I go from, second year of college, party, whatever, like living the good life at college, to coming back after studying abroad. I'm like seeking out the international students, like, oh, where are you from? Tell me more about your culture. What language do you guys speak over there?
Bad.
And so I get this bug really bad. But then you are in Italy, but it's just a place like any other place, right? So you're, working your job, get your time off, you get a little bit longer in Europe than in the States, but still like you've got that allocated time to take vacations. And I've got this travel bug, this, full on travel fever, and it just wasn't enough. Like you're forced to choose. Are you going to, go see family, or are you going to travel? And I wanted to do both, and getting into becoming location independent basically was my ticket to be able to do both of those things, which were really important to me.
So how did you do that? And what are you doing professionally to make that work?
Yeah. So basically when I got to Italy, I had a degree in business and economics. And as happens, usually when you go abroad, you realize that your most marketable skills are teaching English. And so I ended up forgetting about that degree and going into various types of teaching. And so I've done everything from teaching bankers, like preparing bankers for European central bank meetings, to like 1-year-olds and rolling around and teaching English at nursery schools and stuff like that. So I've done kind of the whole gamut of that, and various other things over the course of the years in Italy. You kind of learn to be an entrepreneur. I think that's something when you're abroad, because the other country systems were built for doing things a certain way. So if you come in as an outsider, you're not going to really necessarily fit into those standardized ways of doing things. And so you're kind of forced to be a little entrepreneurial and make a career for yourself. And so I've created a few different types of programs, from like study abroad and things like that. But those were all in person. Those were all pretty much in-person gigs. And so when I had my aha moment, it was actually from listening to another podcast. I realized that digital nomadism was a thing, and I think I'd heard about it, but I didn't really think it could apply to someone who was in my line of work. I kind of did one of those sit down moments and ended up becoming part of a digital nomad community, basically. And in mastermind groups, things like that, you're like working through, okay, what are your skills? What's marketable? What can you do? What can you do remotely? And so we came to the conclusion of 3 things. One was tutoring, which kind of went with the teaching. So like exam preparation, SAT, GMAT, stuff like that. Another was accounting, because of my business background. And also another thing that you kind of get into while you're abroad is you learn about expat taxation and go down that rabbit hole and all that fun stuff. And you're helping people, navigate through their situations. And so I felt like that would fit me pretty well. And then there was travel planning. So that was the third one. So I was thinking about doing those things, and COVID hits. And so there goes travel planning. I actually had a pretty decent travel business started where I was going to organize trips of Americans coming to Italy. And then I kind of got hired / bought out by another company, and ended up getting really good at canceling trips in 2020. And so that led me down the other two were what I ended up going with, which is what I'm doing currently.
So are you working for yourself?
For the tutoring, I have my own company. And so it's me and another tutor. And then for the accounting, I'm actually working for an awesome remote accounting company, which is based in the US and fully remote.
Ah,
Yeah.
awesome. So how do you feel about, now that you've gone through this process in the reverse order, how do you feel about the right way to approach that for somebody who maybe was in your shoes and was like, hey, I like this idea of working from anywhere? What do you think is now would be the easiest way to approach this?
If you take anything from my story, and I'm probably the extreme example of this, it's a little bit at a, and so this whole process of going from the in-person work to fully remote work was years in my case. Just maybe adding remote hours and decreasing the in-person hours. And I had a lot of kind of commitments that I didn't want to just abandon. And so I had kind of had some things to tie out. And so the whole thing ended up taking years. So it probably doesn't have to be that in everyone's case, but I do think that made it a lot more manageable. And so it never felt super crazy. Like, oh, I'm just working 5 hours of remote work now. Now it's 10. And then it just, a little bit at a time. And it just is, because I think one of the things about digital nomad is a lot of people will have unrealistic expectations, right? So they're like, okay, here's my plan. I'm going to quit my job, sell all my stuff, become an entrepreneur, make a million. And it's just like, whoa. Like you just said, things that would, like, one of those is a really huge step. Imagine like trying to do all of them at once. And so I think just having like the small steps makes it a lot more practical.
I think there's actually a lot of science that backs that up too. I think most people that study habit building and goal setting take your line of thinking more than they do these lofty goals to start. I think our minds actually only work in small increments and building on small gains, as opposed to, like, if you want to get at the top of a ladder, you gotta go rung by rung.
Yep.
You cannot jump from the bottom to the top. And then if you set this expectation in your head, I'm going to be a millionaire, entrepreneur, digital nomad in 1 year. If you don't achieve all of that, you've achieved none of it. And your brain is going to set this reward system that's imbalance, as opposed to, like you say, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to maybe get a fully remote job. Okay, that's rung number one. Awesome. Next thing, maybe I start a business and go off on my own. That's rung number two. I totally agree with you, because you'll see all of these, rose-colored glasses posts on Instagram by some dude in Bali who's selling a program on how to do the perfect optimized mental grind set so that you can sell 80 billion courses. And, it's the whole stereotype and everything like that. But honestly, I like what you're saying there, because it's really not a realistic way to approach this. It's not a good way to start. It's probably not healthy. Really, you really should just start one little bit at a time. What I've recommended for people to do, somebody who hasn't done, what you did, becoming an expat, that's a very kind of just jumping straight in head first kind of thing. I tell people just pick an easy hub to go to and take 3-4 weeks and go try it out. Like, I'm going to go work 3-4 weeks from, I don't know, Mexico City, from Playa del Carmen, probably even easier than that. Just see how you like it and see how you manage it. Can I handle working on my own fully remote?
Right, yeah.
Can I handle being in a foreign environment, and then go from there? And that's your first rung. Okay, got it. How do I add a little bit more risk? How do I add a little bit more complexity to the situation?
Yes.
Would you say that that's probably a more realistic?
The goal can still be lofty, but you can still do it in a reasonable way, in a sustainable way, right? That you're not going to burn out. And then you can make some mistakes, right? So maybe you try Playa and you're like, oh, this place isn't for me, but maybe another place would be. So I'm going to go home, like recalibrate, work a little bit, and try it again somewhere else. And you're not just putting it all out there. Like, I don't know, I guess there's probably, definitely different ways of doing it, and maybe, not one size fits all, but I do feel like this way doesn't maybe get as much attention as it should in the digital nomad space, or at least what you see on social media.
Let me ask you something, because Chris and I are so attached to our brand and speaking about digital nomad stuff the way that we want to speak about it. And our aim is to show the whole picture, like the shit, the good stuff, every aspect. So what do you see out there as you're consuming other digital nomad stuff? maybe a little insulated from that. Like, what does the space look like from an outsider to you right now?
I've had various types of interactions. I think one interesting one is actually the Italian digital nomad community, and that adds a whole other layer of complexity because you're also dealing with the Italian job market, which is a lot more traditional. So you're not seeing, maybe you are a little bit more now of things, some of those less conventional jobs like coaches and things like that. And you're seeing a lot of people that are starting out in their career wise. And so that's, you see various levels of making it basically. And so, and I think a lot of people are trying to do the entrepreneur thing, and that's hard. It's not easy. Maybe it's not even what you want to do, right? Maybe you just want to be remote and you think that, okay, I have to be an entrepreneur if I'm going to be remote. I have to come up with this great idea and start this company that's going to be successful so that I can pay for my villa in Bali or whatever. So I'm seeing a lot of that, and I don't consume a lot of the Instagram stuff that we talk about, but I think I do see the influence of it in people who are aspiring to this.
What does that, you mentioned a digital nomad community in Italy. What does that look like? What goes on in that community?
They do. So it's a Facebook group, and it's just called like Italian Digital Nomads, and there's all kinds of questions. I think it may be a private group, but there's so many people in it. It's just basically public, practically. They do meetups in various cities, co-working sessions. Depending on the city, there's like some that are a little bit more active than others, and all types of careers. A lot of tech people. I'd say more tech than anything else, but you see like legal as well, and it's cool because like it's another community that I can reach out to because I love the way that you guys, I think it was the last podcast that I just listened to talking about how to meet friends. I think that's really important. It's kind of similar to when you're expatting. It's like it's almost as if there's a new nationality, like because when I'm in the States, I'm the Italian guy. When I'm in Italy, I'm the American guy, and so you're not really fully connecting with either one anymore. You're both, but also neither at the same time. And
one foot in, one foot out with both.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And
I mean,
you also connect more with anyone else who's in that boat. So like maybe someone from Germany who lives in Italy, I'm going to connect more with you because we know what it's like to be, away from home in this way. And so I love that about the Italian digital nomad community is you can meet people who have that mindset and spend more time with people who you have things in common with.
How did you end up meeting these people in your community?
That was just through this Facebook group basically. And so they have like local, they'll have
the
local
one that I
meetups.
was trying to debunk last week. I think that was on my list of debunks saying, I don't think that's a good way to meet people. And here you are telling me in person that it actually does work.
Oh, so you don't think that the Facebook group is a thing?
Correct. Well, no, I know it's a thing. I know there's various chat communities and forums and things like that. But in my experience, they were kind of dead and hit and miss on whether or not people were actually active on them. And you're kind of proving the opposite point of that. So I might have to recant my statement and stand corrected on that one because you are living proof that can be effective.
What about housing? For finding housing on the Facebook groups?
Finding housing?
Because that's one you hear a lot, that you can, in the get off of Airbnb, go on the Facebook groups, find the deal.
Going off Airbnb, typically a lot of the friends that I know that do that, and when we've done that, it's just big group chats, WhatsApp chats based on the area. For example, if you go to Cape Town, there's a big group chat of 100, 200, 300 people, something like that. It could be for various random topics, could be entrepreneurs, for example. And people just post stuff like that. Hey, got this apartment that's available, yada, yada, yada. You can meet up with those people. You can get connections to local renters, realtors in the area. And that's a great way to go because it's just so much cheaper. This Airbnb has created this crazy artificial bubble that's not even real. I mean, if you go local and pay in local currency, work with a local renter, you're paying like half the price in a lot of instances, Yeah. How are you doing it right now? So you've got a full-time spot in Italy, right? And then you leave it unoccupied, and then you go and travel?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So Yeah, I haven't looked into the renting thing yet. We may or may not go down that road. And for now, as you might have figured out by now, I'm doing it a little bit at a time. So I haven't done some of the big time travel, which is definitely on my bucket list. Like I've done Italy. I've seen what the slow travel can do when you really go to a place, learn the language, learn to cook, learn to, about the culture. And I would definitely like to do that in another place. But for now, I'm sticking to the shorter week, 2 week stays. My wife is also, so she's the original girl from me coming over here, basically.
Part of
She
the
is,
love story?
yeah,
The
exactly,
romance?
exactly. From
Yeah.
that, typical story.
Hmm.
She is also making a transition, a similar transition. And so she's got some in-person gigs now. And so we don't go, fully 3 months or whatever, but kind of fits what we've been doing anyway. So before we go 3 months somewhere and get into trouble because maybe we can't work 3 months very well from Thailand, let's
Yeah.
do same time zone. So we've done like UK, Norway, other parts of Italy, a week here, a couple weeks there. And so we're also, like everything, getting in a little bit at a time. So, but definitely bigger
How's that
and more trips
experience
to
been
come.
for you?
It has been amazing. It has been so. Our first trip was Brighton in the UK, which is like a kind of a. I mean, I call it like the Sicily of England, basically, because it's down south. They go there for the beach. It's a big like holiday destination. Picture like 1960s beach style. So you've got like this really long dock with like a roller coaster on it and the carnival and
Amazing.
video games and
Yeah.
stuff. So it's like just really cool place. Actually, pretty good food scene as well, which was like a really nice surprise. Really good food. Great
That
co-working.
does surprise me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have that
Yeah,
on my bingo card for Brighton.
No, definitely came out of nowhere. Good co-working and just good people in general. And so
Mhm.
that was our first trip, and we were hooked. We were just like, yeah, this is it. We're living our life, like still doing the supermarket, laundromat, all the normal at home stuff,
yeah.
but in another place. And I even feel like from a working point of view, I feel it just keeps you fresh and opens your mind and helps creativity, and because there is some creativity
Why do
in
you think it
accounting.
does that
But
for you?
I think it's
Yeah.
the whole travel thing, right? Where it's, you're outside your comfort zone. And so you're more reactive, kind of like a kid, right? Like when a kid, if you like walk somewhere with a kid, they're like noticing stuff you've never noticed, right? Like, hey, they're like, wow, I walk this way every day and I'd never noticed that was there. You kind of get that, right? You get the
The
young,
beginner's mindset, I think,
yeah,
or is that what it's called? I think there actually is a term
definitely.
for
I'm sure
what
there
you're
is.
describing.
Yeah.
I think it's a beginner's mindset. Yeah, describing.
Yeah. And
I
so
think it's a
that
beginner's
just kind of
mindset. Yeah. Tell me a little
combined.
bit
Yeah.
for
Go
the
ahead.
listeners. I think this could be kind of helpful. How did you go about the logistics of this? This is your first trip. I was
Yep.
trying to digital nomad for a few weeks. So plane tickets, booking, by internet,
Yep.
work situation. What did that look like for you logistically, so people could understand how
Yeah.
real is it? What do you have to go
I mean, it was
through to figure that
pretty
stuff out?
pretty much probably the way people would imagine it. I think it started out with
Yeah.
a Google search, best digital nomad destinations in the UK. We had to be there anyway for a work commitment, so that we were like, okay, we're going to be in UK anyway. So what would be a good place to go? Okay, found Brighton, booking.com. So we're definitely wasn't the price wasn't the number one factor. We were just like, okay, we're going to be there for a little over a week. And so we want to be central. We want to be somewhere where we can walk to, attractions and co-working and things like that. Like we don't want to be spending this week on buses. And yeah, and then basic YouTube research on places to visit, places to go. And so yeah, it wasn't anything really out of the ordinary. Now, I would love to do more of what you're talking about for future trips and like get more in contact with locals and hear from them what options are, because I'm sure I overpaid for this place we were staying and probably missed out on
booking.
some. Yeah. I mean, I have
How
the
was the
elite
work
status,
setup for
but
you?
I still think I can do better.
Yeah. Oh, nice badge. Great badge.
Right?
Good power
Nice
drop there.
flex on the podcast.
Oh yeah, big flex. That's great. As I close out my window with my booking.com and shame. Tell me about your work setup. How did it look for you while you were doing that for the first time, working from the apartment, or what did it look like?
Yeah, it was half and half. So it was probably a couple days. I tried a couple co-working spots out. They They actually had some really nice ones there. I do a lot of calls, and so I had to either get the booth or come home basically for those. So that was a little bit tricky in my line of work. So that was probably one of my takeaways. That was okay. If you're gonna be doing these calls, that is really going to have an effect on how your logistics of the trip, because not all co-working places are set up for that. And I do have my mic.
It can ruin your trip.
Yeah.
It can absolutely paint a bad
Co-working.
picture of the whole situation. God, I honestly don't love co-working too much. I'm good with getting out of the house. It's for me, it's just kind of a refresher. Hang out with some of the digital nomad friends, get something to eat, get a coffee or two, and just have a little bit of community around you. Just the press is kind of nice to have the energy.
Definitely.
But on a call, fuck that. Fuck that. I got to go back to the apartment.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
That could be one of those things to debunk, that that you're going to be at co-working spots most of the time. Like if you're on a lot of calls, you might just want to be at home. Just
you need a good setup at home.
Yeah,
you do, or you're just not going to be productive or comfortable. Tell me, actually, kind of want to learn your thoughts on why in a slow travel, but tell me a little bit more about these first couple trips first. I want to hear about. You mentioned Norway was in that list.
Yeah, Norway. We did.
Tell me about. I've never been there before.
Yeah, so I'm not hitting the typical spots, nor am I hitting the ones that you can stay
you're not.
long time for budget reasons.
Well, tell the audience
so
why.
That was another, not even a week in Norway, but we wanted to do Northern Lights. I had a friend who is actually a travel planner, and someone had talked to her about if if you have to see one thing, you have to see the Northern Lights. And so this was in November. So we go to Tromsø, which is basically the northernmost city in all of Norway. So like you go up there, you're basically Arctic tundra, and you got reindeers running around like once you get outside the city. And that was one of those aha moments. Like, I can't believe I am like working here and also just out here enjoying this, 1 p.m. sunset and doing a call, and then going out and hanging out in a troll museum and a couple more calls.
A troll museum? You're gonna have to unpack that for me.
That's their one of the top attractions in Tromsø. Don't knock it till you try it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And explain to the audience why this is more of a short-term type of location.
So just price-wise, yeah. And we didn't have a car, and so we were also doing tours to see the Northern Lights, because you want to get out of the town. Be careful with weather reports, because it was overcast. So we didn't. One of the nights we didn't see them. One of the nights we saw them. Maybe not the way you imagine them, but still totally worth it, and not cheap at all. So
did you do one of those ice igloo things to see the Northern Lights? I've seen these before.
Not the igloo. No, we did an ice bar.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Ooh,
everything made of ice.
What was that?
Yeah, like you're sitting. They give you these huge parkas, and then you're sitting on the ice blocks and drinking out of frozen ice, cup-shaped ice cubes. And you got to do it. If you're in Tromsø, you got to do it.
That sounds very. I mean, I'm become more of a tropical guy, so I don't know how well that climate would agree with me.
Well, you can do Mai
Tai.
Tai.
Like drinking.
They'll make it.
And I do like bars, and I could put an umbrella and put me in the right state of mind. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Have you been you mentioned the UK and Norway. Have you been anywhere else?
We've done a little bit of Italy stuff, and by the way, most incredible country to visit. So I know why it's not on the digital nomad radar. Price is one reason, and traditionally the Wi-Fi hasn't been great, but I could totally see it blowing up as a future spot. And so we've done a couple local Italian trips. We've done like a beach town near here, near Cinque Terre, which is like a pretty popular tourist place. We didn't actually go there, but we went near there, a little bit off the beaten path. So we got the whole beach thing, view out the window as you're working. And I go home a lot too.
That's what everybody wants.
Yeah. So California.
I'm trying to book a trip for the family to show them Italy for the first time. I might actually drop you a note. See if I can get a few recommendations. I would hang out in the region and do my thing, but I'd have to tour guide around a little bit. And I've thus far only
you can't go wrong. You really can't go wrong. Yeah.
You can't go wrong.
Like
Okay. I can't screw that up.
I always
You
say,
don't know me
you
very well.
cannot
I
screw
couldn't
up.
possibly
You
screw
cannot
that
screw
up.
up an Italy trip. Like you can get airdropped in any random city
It'd be fine.
and you're going to see something incredible within like a few mile radius.
Yeah.
You're probably going to get some food that you've
Amazing.
never heard of that they only do there and they do it one particular way. And they might not even be speaking Italian, but that's kind of the beauty of it. It's just
Very cool.
good place to be stuck during COVID. If you got to be stuck somewhere.
That's pretty good. I got stuck in Mexico. That was also a pretty good place to get
not too
stuck.
shabby.
Although their COVID techniques were questionable,
Right.
very and silly and funny. But I mean, so the whole world was kind of like that. I want to ask you a little bit more about, you'd mentioned this idea of slow travel. It's a little prohibitive at the moment. Your wife needs a little bit more leeway for longer term, different time zones, types of logistics stuff. What appeals to you about that of traveling, and where would you go?
So I think it's like maybe just, my mentality is you just want to understand the people as much as possible. I think it's about the people at the end of the day. And so coming to Italy was kind of my blueprint as far as like you come over, you study the language. I probably won't be trying to meet a girl in every single place I go, but you kind of get that connection. You meet people in their world, right? Doing their thing. And it's just eye opening. And once you've done it once, I feel like you get curious to know what other places are like what else am I missing? Like what else don't I know? Even music, like even getting into like listening to pop music. Cause world music, you usually think of as like the traditional stuff, but like there's this whole world of pop culture from other countries that, in the US, we don't really get to experience that often. And so just like what else is out there that I don't know about that is amazing. That's kind of what's behind it. And it's just cool, I think, to be able to speak other languages, and it's fun as well. And as far as where, I've definitely we've been to Vietnam on just traveling, and that really struck us. So that could be a possible spot. We love Mexico as well. So those two for sure. And I feel like if you learn Italian, you kind of get Spanish for free. And so that could be one of those spots for sure. I think Merida has a really good, digital nomad community as far as like when we were there, we were hanging out with them a little bit and they seemed awesome.
Yeah. There's quite a bit up there. Hot. Super, super hot in Merida. But there's quite a bit going on up there. I think some kite surfers go there too. I've got a bad relationship with kite surfing due to Morocco, but I know it's a thing and people do it. And you mentioned Vietnam. That sounds amazing too. I've got this dream, this vision of me riding a motorcycle from one side of Vietnam to the other side, top to bottom.
Yep.
And I want to do, maybe next year, that'll be for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Just
the laptop on the back,
go for
backpack, get a cheap motorcycle and just bomb from one side to the other. I don't know. If I'm there when you make it there, we'll meet up and
meet up halfway
for sure. Yeah, exactly. You had mentioned some of the discussions that you had in your digital nomad group, and there's a lot of tech people. I think you'd mentioned a lot of people talking about tech as a job.
Yeah.
But also, and I think that's kind of the understanding that people have, whether it's true or not, that you have to be into tech to be a digital nomad. A lot of people aren't into tech, especially developers, because it kind of lends itself well to traveling. Not a whole lot of internet requirements. You don't have many calls, if any, from the tech people that I know. But you'd also mention language, and you know a ton about languages, and how to teach languages, and why it's such an effective route. Tell me a little bit more about language itself and how it relates to working remotely.
Yeah, I think it all kind of ties back to things that we don't do that much in the US. Learn foreign languages, right? We don't need to. Why bother? So
we're insular. We've got no exposure to anything else.
Yeah, and so you learn whatever, like French or Spanish at high school, and then that's it. But it doesn't really feel real, right? You're just kind of doing doing what they tell you to do. Just it's not something that's super practical. And so I think that was another thing that, when you actually go abroad and are like, you have those moments where you're like, oh, I'm speaking another language, I'm communicating, I'm doing all this. It really, opens doors. It, breaks down barriers, all that good stuff. And you change, right? You become you just through these new experiences, you change, and it's something that I've experienced and that I've also seen other people experience through, the early years teaching English and also organizing trips where people would learn English. And yeah, I think it's something that, I mean, to me, it's become also just a hobby, to be honest. So anytime I go somewhere, I'll throw a plug out for Pimsleur language. The lessons are very well done, and you can get to like a solid level just doing like these 30-minute audio courses. And so I'll do my, 30 lessons at Pimsleur before I go to a new country. And then people appreciate it, right? They just like when you say those little 3 words in someone's language, like you see their eyes light up, right? They're just like, wow, you totally butchered language, but it was cool.
But you tried.
Yeah, exactly. You may never.
But you tried.
So that's always, that's been winning. And, funny story, like when I came back to Italy, so that's the whole other side that we haven't gone into, is like the fun part of expat bureaucracy and figuring all that stuff up, like residence permits and just all that. And in Italy especially. But so when I first came to Italy, I had a studying residence permit. And so you had to be enrolled in a university. I already had my university like degree from the States at this point. But I like re-enrolled in another bachelor's program. And they were like, if you want to be in Italy, you have to be studying and you have to do 2 exams per year. And I was like, and with a study permit, you could work, right? So that was the idea behind it was that, okay, if you have a study permit, you can also work part-time. And so I can support myself when I'm over here. Great. And so what do you want to study? Well, something that I can pass 2 tests a year. So I was studying English and I had to study another language. And so I just randomly chose German. And so I was, technically in Italy studying German. So I come back to the States, come home, you're at custom or passport control, and they're like, okay, what's the purpose of your visit? Or where are you coming from? Italy. Purpose of your visit? I'm studying. What are you studying? German. Like, you went to Italy to study German. Yeah. Right this way. We're going to check your bag.
Yeah. Classic. Yeah, I bet. It's a likely story.
Right?
Yeah.
So I got that bug bad too. Language and travel.
I wanted to go one more area. You mentioned that you like hiking, long distance hiking, specifically the Santiago.
That kind of goes with the podcast listening. I think that's a good way to consume those. And so I got into that here in Italy where I'm living in Tuscany. There's a similar trail to the Santiago. So these are like these old pilgrim trails that you can do. They're like, if you walk them, they're multiple days. So I think the one in Italy is like 45 days of trekking, and it's similar to Santiago, not as common. It's called the Via Francigena. I can send a shout out. It's a VIA space FRANCIGENA, I think. And just think like you are walking through such a variety. This, as I mentioned earlier, you're like, it starts by crossing the Alps basically. So you're walking over the Alps, you're walking through rice fields, like you're walking through Tuscany, and it's awesome. And you're eating Italian food. So what's not to love? And so I've been doing that. Actually read the book A Walk in the Woods, Bill Bryson. And so he does the Appalachian Trail like that. And he's like, well, I want to walk the Appalachian Trail, but I am working and I don't have that. Like, I don't have however many months to just go do this trail. So I'm going to do it on weekends and take a week here and there. So I'm going to do the whole trail and just like every time I go back, pick up where I left off. And so I got into that on this Via Francigena in Italy. And so plans, fingers crossed, are to complete it at the end of the year. So
is this enormous? I'm looking at a map. It shows Rome all the way through Switzerland, through France.
It does go past. Yeah, I think it starts in England. Yeah. So if you really want to go all out, people do it. You'll meet people who have come from England who are doing it in reverse and like going to cross over France and go from there to the Camino di Santiago and then go wherever after that. Like people are doing some crazy stuff there for sure.
That may not be digital nomad friendly, but it looks like an absolute
blast. Haven't tried the Nomad thing yet. This laptop in the backpack, I don't.
Nah, that would defeat the whole purpose of the thing. You're supposed to be into unplugging, that kind of thing.
Gotta do that too.
Okay, my last question for you here is, as a side listener, again, like I said, Marissa and I are insulated with each other. We don't often get to interact with people
They don't let you out
who
that much.
are taking they don't let us out. They don't let us out too much.
Just in here recording podcasts, like produce that content.
Yeah, we keep it running a tight ship
Yep.
here. What kind of episodes that we record resonate the most with you, and which ones are more of a skip for you? You can be honest with me.
Yeah.
There's no ego involved. I won't cut it. I promise.
I'll download them all. I got to get you guys your metrics.
Appreciate
for sure.
That.
Yeah. The resonate the most is anything that's practical. So when you guys are like, this is what you can do. 10 places that you should be visiting. I loved the one where it was, and so if you guys can do like a follow-up on this, that would be awesome. The places you can see when you're digital nomading that you wouldn't travel to, right? Because they're too kind of inaccessible. So like, yeah, you might travel near here, but you're probably not going to get
we can
here.
do more of that.
Yeah. That was a great one. I love that. And so anything practical, actionable podcasts, I love.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I like hearing about the remote work stuff too. It's not my situation now, but I do like having that knowledge, because I feel like if somebody asks me like, what can I do to be a digital nomad? Like, I'd like to know what the remote work situation is, where we're at with RTO at the moment. And so I find that stuff really interesting and hilarious as well.
When I go off on an RTO rant is what you're referring to? Yeah.
Anti-RTO
Fortunately, I've got Marissa to reel me back in from to talk me off the ledge before I go too heavy on that.
Right.
I am glad that you like to hear about the remote work thing. Yeah. I am happy that you like to hear about the remote work thing. It really is an easy path to traveling. And a lot of what you were talking about earlier of just having the freedom to, say, visit family while you're still working, not have to take a vacation to go visit your family.
Yeah.
Just being free to, hey, I'm a knowledge worker, and I'm getting paid for my knowledge. It doesn't matter where physically I am. It's my output that matters. And just being able to say, hey, just lean on my skills and let me show you what I can do. And I think that's really an important thing. We have taken a little bit of a step and talked more about remote work along with digital nomad stuff, because those things really do go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And all these people getting called back into the office is a big part of that too. A lot of people had a little bit of a taste of freedom, probably more limited to their homes, or their home office, or their home city, or whatever. But now it's being taken away, and that's, I think, a good fight for us to fight. So I'm so glad that we've got folks like you listening and interested in that.
Definitely. And if you're going to fight the fight, be smart about it. Don't be just doing this crazy thing that, is high probability of failure, right? Like, let's be smart about it and come up with a plan that's reasonable, and, a couple steps at a time.
Yep, exactly. That's the truth. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us. I haven't had a guest on here in quite a long time, so this is really nice and refreshing to hear your perspective and your story. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Been a pleasure.
We'll see you again next week.